With the amount of nutritional information out there, it can become really overwhelming to know what you should and shouldn't be doing. Should you be avoiding carbohydrates? Should you be eating them? Should you be having a high-fat diet or not? Because let's be honest, there's just so much information out there, and when it comes down to planning your diet, you might feel overwhelmed, and at the end of the day, just kind of give up and do nothing. So I thought today I'd maybe start a new series and call it Nutrition 101, just getting back to the basics of understanding what is our foundational nutrition, the things we need to try and get right every day to have that sustainable diet, to make sure that we are managing our health optimally, and then from there on build towards our goals, whether it be to lose fat, to gain muscle, or to treat or manage a chronic disease. So before we start with the video, just an introduction. My name is Melissa Mel. I'm a registered dietitian and I'm part of the Body 20 Nutrition Doctor team, and very welcome here if you're new. Please follow along. We do these videos every 2 weeks. You're very welcome to send us any questions if you have any via WhatsApp or email, and we will be happy to answer you. So today I want to focus specifically on carbohydrates. So carbohydrates actually have gotten quite a bad rap the past few years. I think it's gotten a bit better, but still it has been seen by a lot of people as something you should be avoiding. I often get this when I see clients say like, yeah, I avoid carbohydrates, or I don't eat carbs or starch. And I think it's important that we understand what is carbohydrates, why we need them or don't need them, and how we can incorporate them into the diet effectively. So carbohydrates is one of the macronutrients. We get carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. So we'll do the others in the next upcoming videos. So carbohydrates also contain, or basically consist of 3 types of carbohydrates. So it would be your sugars, starches, and fibers specifically. And all 3 of these actually have different effects on the body, and we'll talk about that in more detail shortly. When we look at carbohydrates also compared to protein and fat, we see 1 gram of carbohydrates contain 4 calories, and protein, also 1 gram, contains 4, whereas fat contains 9 calories per gram. So we do see that carbohydrates is almost half of the amount of calories per gram compared to fats. And moving on to the 3 types of carbohydrates, we see, like I've mentioned, we have sugar, starches, and fiber. So this is where it gets important, because we need to make sure that we are, including carbohydrates in our diet, but we typically want to try and opt for the, I don't really want to say the word, but healthier types of carbohydrates as far as possible. Why do we want to incorporate carbohydrates in our diet? Because carbohydrates basically provide the fuel for the body. It's basically like putting petrol in your car. It's carbohydrates. So it's your brain's preferred fuel source. It provides glucose for your cells so that you are able to actually do your daily tasks, get by living, and also exercise if that is what you want to do. So going into the specific carbohydrates, let's start with sugars. So sugars can actually be added afterwards in production, so that we call added sugars. And then we have naturally occurring sugars, like sugars you find in your fruits and things like your lactose and dairy products. When it comes to sugars, we typically do want to try and limit the amount of sugars that we are consuming, mainly because this gets released into the bloodstream quite quickly and rapidly, and may cause some spikes and drops in the blood sugar levels, leading to other health conditions that we don't want, and also sometimes may lead to some cravings, also feeling tired and losing some concentration throughout the day. So where you can try to opt for products that don't have a lot of added sugars in them, and then of course the naturally occurring sugars are fine, but we do want to make sure that we are, trying to not overdo it when it comes to these foods, and also trying to lower their GI by partnering them with some fats and protein. Like for example, if you're having a fruit, having some nuts with it, for example, just to lower that GI so that it doesn't cause that spike in the blood sugar levels. Next up, we have starches. So starches we typically find in your whole grains, cereals, rice, and those types of grains that we typically find. So here again, we do have our whole grains that are less processed than our more refined types of products. And our whole grain products are also the better options, mainly because, again, They take a little bit longer to digest in the body, leading to slower release of that sugar into the bloodstream, also leading to a more controlled sugar level throughout the day, which is what we want to aim for. Same with our sugars, when we, partner them with a fat or protein. Here we can opt for your whole grain options as far as possible, or your minimally processed options as far as possible, to really just manage the blood sugar levels. Lastly, we have fiber. So fiber we typically get in our vegetables, and we get two types of fiber. We get soluble and insoluble fiber. Fiber is amazing. We should be trying to have as much of it as in the diet as possible. It's been shown to help with lowering cholesterol levels. It manages the blood sugar levels. It has been shown to help with weight loss, and the list just goes on and on. So definitely try to make sure you are having high fiber foods in your diet. So this would be your vegetables, it would be your nuts and seeds, but let's not talk about the fats yet. It will also be your beans and legumes, lentils, chickpeas, those types of things, fruits, and then again your whole grains. Just going back to soluble and insoluble fiber, just knowing the difference. Both of them are really important. That's why we want to have a variety of foods in our diet. Oats, for example, contain soluble fiber, and your roughage, like your whole grains, or for example your vegetables, contain your insoluble fiber. So soluble fiber specifically is really important to lower that cholesterol levels, manage the blood sugar levels, and then the insoluble fibers there to form the bulk in the gut, so that we have a more regular bowel movement and prevent constipation as far as possible, especially with a good amount of water intake throughout the day. So those are three typical types of carbohydrates. So you see that it is easy to incorporate all three of them in your diet, which is great. Try to opt for your naturally occurring sugars as far as possible compared to your added sugars. Opt for your whole grains where you can, and then also make sure you are having lots of fiber in your diet through fiber-rich foods, and then opting for higher fiber products if you are buying a cereal or a cracker, for example. When it comes to the amount of carbohydrates, I think this is where most people go wrong. We often tend to say carbohydrates are bad, we shouldn't be having them, they are leading to weight gain and so forth. But the main problem is our portion sizes in general. Carbohydrates are very convenient, they are often also cheaper, and they are very tasty, if we're being honest. But we tend to overdo it when it comes to dishing up the amounts of carbohydrates or having carbohydrate snacks throughout the day. So instead of just avoiding carbohydrates altogether, let's rather just opt for smallest portion sizes where we can. So when you are dishing up a plate of food and you are making sure that there is some carbohydrates present, fats and proteins, you can try to divide your plate in half, and then the one half in half again, and that half you actually share between your carbohydrates and your protein portion, for example. Another easy way is to use your fist as a portion guide. So that's like typically the fist size of rice, for example, on your plate, and then also just opt for your lower GI carbohydrates as fastest. So that's it for carbohydrates today. If you have any questions, like I said, you're very welcome to let us know via WhatsApp or email. And then in the next upcoming videos, we'll be focusing specifically on proteins and fats for the rest of the macronutrients. And then we'll move on to the micronutrients and the smaller little things that we need to make sure that we are also opting for in our diet, to make sure we are having a great foundation when it comes to our diet that's going to optimize our health and well-being. And then from there, we can work on those little bits of nuggets that we can incorporate here and there to just optimize it even more for whatever your goal might be. I hope this has been helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.